Val, welcome to Waterstones.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I've certainly tried to bring some winter spirit with my desk Christmas tree here.
It's charming.
We will get to Christmas lights later because I know you're a fan, but we will talk about the seasons and I was really fascinated reading this book about how for you this is a period of creativity, and we'll talk about your process a bit later. But you seem to be a real lover of festivals and the ritual that goes with them. Would that be fair?
I think so. It's one of those things that as a child you learn to mark out the year by festivals, birthdays, those sort of things. And so it can play quite a big role in your life if they're played up to in your family and your surroundings.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid growing up, things like Halloween and guising they were a big deal. And so you looked forward to them. And so those memories stick much more than the more mundane things.
Let's talk about Halloween actually, because that is, I suppose, the first of the festivals that appears chronologically. And you mentioned there guising. For those who don't know what guising is, can you explain what that means?
Well, it's the proper trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Well, it was hijacked by the Americans. And you had to have a fancy dress, and you had to go around all your neighbours' houses, knocking on the doors, and they would let you in, and you would do your party piece. And then you'd get either some money or some sweets or some fruit if you were really unlucky. And you'd go around the neighbourhood and you'd go to the people that you knew, but you'd also go to the people that you didn't know. And you sometimes got the people you were really quite frightened of.
Yeah.
And because it was guising, everybody accepted it and nobody slammed the door in your face. And you kind of went with what was available in terms of your fancy dress. I mean, one year I remember Speedy Gonzales was in the charts with Pat Boone.
Yeah.
And it was, the very catchy refrain, and so my mum had an old curtain that was sort of bright orange, so cut a hole in the curtain, belt round my head, and I had a cardboard sombrero that I'd been given at a Christmas party the year before.
Yeah.
So that was me, sorted. So I'd knock people's doors and go la 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 la. So, and the turnip lantern, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, you mentioned in the book that one of the lovely things about it was that you got to go into the houses and find out things about people who you didn't know, to get to see inside and see how the other half lived, I suppose, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, when we were kids, we didn't tend to get inside other people's houses. I mean, if you were playing with somebody, a neighbour or something, you'd be in somebody's vestibule, or you'd be in the garages up the back of the street where we lived. You didn't really get inside their houses and see what was what. So I was always nosy about that. I always liked to see what was what and how people lived. And there were some, we had a family in our street who the father was Polish, and they were Polish Catholics, and they had completely different interior to anybody else, and it was really interesting to me how people lived and what they did.
The love of guising hasn't disappeared. You're still a fan of getting dressed up and making your own costumes, I understand.
Well, not quite. I mean, we did the thing during lockdown of cooking the books. Yeah. Because my publisher wanted me to do sort of some YouTube videos about craft, about being a writer, just in case people forgot about me during lockdown, And I thought I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting in a chair for 45 minutes talking about characterisation. So I talked about it with my partner, who's very creative, and she said, well, why don't you do something about food? Because there's a lot of food in your books, people talk about that. I mean, because I do think that so many crime novels, nobody ever stops for their tea. Nobody ever has a meal properly. They're always living out of pizzas or sandwiches bought from a shop. And so people in my books have meals, they eat things, and so we started off doing that, and it just grew and grew. And I did actually get transformed into Prue Leith in one particular episode. And so yeah, it's quite fun getting dressed up and being silly.
Moving on to Bonfire Night, you tell a fantastic story around fireworks night, which is that your dad always used to do the fireworks until one time when he tripped on a stone and the taper went into the box. Is that right? Tell me what happened next.
It was glorious for about a minute. Fabulous sparks flying everywhere in different colours and whiz bangs everywhere, and then nothing. That was it. That was the fireworks.
I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a viral video of a very professional display, I think it might have been in America, where the electrics went wrong and basically every single firework went off immediately at the very beginning, and it is a bit like an atom bomb going off. It's so loud and so bright. but very funny to see all these people completely baffled about what's happening.
It wasn't quite that spectacular.
No.
Box of standard fireworks, you know. But after that, we decided it would be better just to go to the neighbours who had a proper bonfire, and everybody took their fireworks along and got them lit.
Do you still, is bonfire night something that you still celebrate now? Do you enjoy the fireworks?
I do enjoy the fireworks, but I don't really go to a great deal of trouble to see them, because living in Edinburgh, there's always fireworks going on. We get them right through the festival. The book festival, I remember one year with somebody doing an event from Palestine, and we're all sitting on the stage, quite the thing, going through this event. And what, of course, he didn't realise was that at 9 o'clock, the fireworks went off for the tattoo.
Yeah.
And the guy was just about, I mean, he was completely shell-shocked.
Yeah.
And we all felt terrible about it, because we didn't think for a moment that this would possibly cause that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But of course, understandably.
Yeah.
And so they do that every night during the festival, every single night. And then you've got New Year fireworks as well. So, you know, it's something I can't really avoid. but we at New Year, New Year's become such a thing in Edinburgh. I mean, Edinburgh's hogmanay, and streets are blocked off, and people can't have parties in their house because they can't get their friends in through the barricades.
Yeah.
So we actually we decamp to Fife.
Okay.
And we go down to the village harbour, and the villagers gather together, and Gordon has his box of fireworks, and he sets them off, and it's all very nice. And because if it's a clear night, we can see across the Firth of Forth to Edinburgh and all the towns along East Lothian. So we get the benefit of everybody else's fireworks.
It's really interesting, because you mentioned about hogmanay and how it's changed. There was a really lovely nostalgia in your book when you were talking about the New Year in the past, where it was very organic in terms of neighbours coming together in order to celebrate the New Year. And as you say, now the commercialisation of it, meaning that it's really hard to actually move about the city that you live in. That seemed to me a little bit of a theme actually through some of these festivals, was that there's a element at which they've all been spoiled slightly by the commercialisation of them. Is that how it feels to you?
I think a lot of it does. I mean, Halloween's completely gone. I mean, it's trick or treat, and small children come and bang on your door demanding things without anything in return. You know, they're just going to say trick or treat. You go like, okay, what's the trick?
Yeah.
You know, and they look at you as if you're not all there. You know, so that's gone. I mean, nobody's stealing turnips out of farmers' fields and carving them into turnip lanterns anymore. But some of the others, I mean, there's lots of things that still go on really well. I mean, Christmas can be difficult in lots of ways, it can be very commercialised in lots of ways, but there are still ways to enjoy Christmas. I mean, you know, the fabulous carol services where you can go and hear beautiful music sung really well, or there's a torchlit procession in Edinburgh, and all of these things can really warm the spirit. And you can go on the Sky Flyer and you know, scream yourself hoarse and come down again and say, well, Fife's still there.
Just to dip back in time slightly in the year to Christmas itself, as I said, I brought you my desk tree. I'm really trying to embrace the spirit of Christmas this year.
It's really fine. I mean,
it is not quite as good as the lights that you describe in your book, because you talk about, we're going to go to a completely different part of the world now, the amazing experience of seeing Christmas lights in New Orleans. Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience? Yeah,
I was in New Orleans visiting a friend and doing some research for a book back at the turn of the just 1999, I think it was, and it was there in December. And she said, we have to go and look at the Christmas lights. And I'm thinking, yeah, Christmas lights, see Christmas lights. And we went and walked down to the French Quarter, then along to the Marigny, where lots of people have got big displays on their rooftops or their gardens. And every house seemed to be trying to outdo the next door neighbours with these displays of, you know, illuminated reindeer and Santa Clauses and cribs and all that. It was quite extraordinary. And I remember one or two houses didn't have any lights at all. I said, are they not celebrating Christmas? And my friend said, no, they're poor.
Right.
And that was kind of that end of that conversation. But we went then to the park, a big park in central New Orleans, and they have this amazing display for Christmas. You pay to get into the park, $5 or something. Yeah. And you drive through very slowly in this long line of cars, and you just pass these amazing light displays, various tableaus, decorated buildings. It's just breathtaking. And I think it's like, there's something really exciting about that, you know, and they've got a giant snowman and a sledge, and it's great. I mean, it's hard to come away from that and not feel like, it's hard to go away from that feeling like Scrooge.
No, that's true. It gives you a little bit of that Christmas spirit. There's quite a lot of debate currently in our office about when Christmas trees will be bought and Christmas lights go up. When is it for you?
Nothing before the beginning of December, surely.
Surely not, no.
You know, I mean, it was like Halloween and then the Christmas decorations went up. I just, no, wait a minute. You've got to build up to things.
Yeah.
The anticipation, particularly when you're a child, I think the anticipation is really a big deal. You know, Christmas is getting nearer, and then the Christmas lights go up, and it's really, it's tension, excitement of what it might bring you.
So not this weekend?
Not this weekend,
okay,
no.
Good.
No, we've not got our Christmas lights up at all yet.
Okay. When the year turns into the new year, you talk so eloquently about why this is a period of creativity for you. Before we get to that, I wanted to just touch on, I suppose, the area in which you write, which is crime, and I suppose that's sort of what James Ellroy called tartan noir. Tell me a little bit, I suppose, about what he meant by that. What are the characteristics of that style of crime writing, and why is it so fitting in winter in Scotland? Yeah,
I think Ellroy was putting his finger on what had started to become a trend. It really started with William McIlvaney's Laidlaw, and that kind of pushed the door open a crack, and then Ian Rankin and I came along and thought, this is interesting, I could do that. So we kind of kicked the door open a bit further, and then we got trampled to death under the gold rush. But it seems very fitting, and I think it's the same reason why Scandi crime works, because we have these long, dark winter nights, and it's very difficult to grow up in that kind of world and not feel the sort of potential sinister elements of walking home in the dark from school. And so it's kind of there, winter, dark, things can happen. And I guess for us in Scotland as well, there's a cultural thing that Hugh McDermid, the poet, called the Caledonian anti-syzygy, which he calls the yoking together of two opposing forces. So on the one side, we've got this sort of dark, miserable, dour Presbyterianism, saying you're all sins, it's all doomed. And on the other side, you've got the sort of Celtic gaiety, laughter, music, dance, and song. And these two aspects of the national character are always kind of pulling against each other. And I think that allows us to write very dark crime that always has a streak of black humour running through it. So just when you think it's all getting too impossibly bleak, something happens and you sort of go... and that's very much, I think, how our national psyche works.
Yeah.
We don't take ourselves always too seriously. But that even in the darkest moment, that we can find humour.
You really do crack on straight away. Like at the beginning of January, you sit down with any sort of scraps of notes that you might have been scribbling away at, and you set to work on the next book. And your aim is always to get about 50 pages done in January. Yeah.
Just make a tentative beginning.
Yeah, but you sort of mentioned that beginning is always slightly fraught with a worry that the skills may have sort of waned in that interim. You can't really mean that, surely, at this stage.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I know that I know enough to put the basic building blocks in place, but is the story going to compel?
Yeah.
Are people going to believe it? Are they going to love the characters? Are they going to care? And I remember hearing William Golding many years ago being interviewed on the BBC. William Golding, Lord of the Flies, Nobel Prize, all that. And the interviewer said, you must feel very relieved when you finish a book. And he said, well, there is a certain sense of relief. He said, but what I mostly feel is the sense of doubt. Will I ever be able to do this again?
Right.
And I think that's healthy for a writer.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for me, it wouldn't be any fun if I just sat down and thought, oh, this is how I do this, this is how I do this, this is how I do this. It's the drive for me is always trying to do things better, or at least differently from what I've done before. And I think that's exactly what drives you to become a better writer. I mean, when I was starting out, I met Ruth Rendell, and I was like, oh, wow, it's Ruth Rendell. What do you say after you said, I think you're fantastic, I love your books, I love the range of your writing. And so I said, I suppose when you've written as many books as you have, it gets easier. And she looked at me as if I was very slow and very stupid and said, no, dear, it gets harder. And I didn't really understand that in the moment, but I understand it now, because if you set yourself high standards, then you're always pushing yourself to be better. Yeah. And I have to say, this is a bit naughty, but when people say, I'm so pleased with my new book, I want to say, you're not doing it right then.
That is some beautiful advice, yes. I mean, despite those worries, you seem quite no nonsense in terms of you don't have superstitions about where you need to be or what you need to have to write? Do you feel like you could sort of write anywhere and with anything?
Pretty much. I mean, it's my job.
Yeah.
I was a journalist for a long time, and you can't say to your news editor, "I can't write that news story because I'm in a really not very nice cafe." It doesn't really work like that. But for me, pretty much. I write on trains. I write in hotel rooms. I don't write in planes and airports because that's always so bitty.
Yeah.
You don't get to sort of good sit down and have at it. But I'm not precious about it at all. I wrote Queen Macbeth. I wrote that as a novella. I wrote it in Spain, in a month in Spain, in my sister-in-law's house.
Wow.
So it doesn't really matter where I am. If I've got the stuff in my head, I can do it anywhere.
When you're working through those intricacies of plot and character, I was very intrigued to hear you talking about how you often do this whilst you're walking. Mm-hmm. You walk along the estuary, past those bridges, and whilst you're doing that, you're often talking out loud, you're trying out conversations. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I find that really, really interesting.
Well, I think movement helps you to have a conversation. Often it's the place where you can have a difficult conversation with somebody in real life. Is if you go for a walk and you talk about what's bugging you, what's wrong between you. But for an author, it's I don't know, it works. It's particularly beside water. It really makes a difference to me. It seems to unblock whatever it is that I'm stumbling over, and so that's just how it goes. And I have these conversations in my head as I'm walking. Sometimes I say things out loud and people look at me very strangely and pull their children away, which is quite right, by the way. I think it's just that sense of movement, and water moving is always fascinating, whether it's the sea or whether it's a river or even if it's just a wee burn. Just the sight of it and the sound of it, it's about forward movement all the time, forward movement. I'm not somebody who spends much time looking at the past. I don't look back. Yeah. I always look forward. What's next? What's next?
One of the reasons why I found it interesting was there was two things that it made me think of. One was a conversation I'd had previously with somebody called Professor Shane O'Mara, who spoke to me about the science of walking and why it's actually a really crucial part of human development. And as you say, that action of walking is doing something to your brain that's making it work much better. But back in my acting days, when I needed to learn a lot of lines, the most effective way I could do that, I found, was when I was walking. So like you, I would walk and talk out loud, get funny looks, have children pulled away from me. But that's when they would go in, not if I was sat down sort of stewing in a chair.
Yeah, and I've had a couple of big surgeries in the last couple of years. I had a back surgery last year and heart surgery this year. I'm getting all the big ones out of the way.
Yeah.
And so for both of those years, walking was complicated.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a case of I could just go out and walk. And I really missed it. I really missed the banality, I suppose, of just going out and having a walk.
Yeah.
And in the last sort of few weeks, I've got to the point with my heart surgery reconvalescence where I can actually go out and have a proper walk.
Yeah.
And it just feels so much better. I feel so much better in myself.
And away from the creativity, is there also a way in which, with this season that we're talking about, winter, that a walk outside in that kind of weather, does that give you some kind of nourishment, I suppose, in a way, with the things that you can see and observe?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like all of us. I like to watch nature changing around me. The leaves on the trees. I was walking in the nature reserve opposite our house yesterday, and it dawned on me that practically all the trees were bare, apart from the oak trees, which were still hanging on to their leaves. And then you see the squirrels rampaging around underneath, collecting the acorns. And so there's little things like that you notice every time I go out into the nature reserve, I notice something different. And that also, I think, is quite nourishing, because you're sort of thinking, okay, however weird or bad things seem to be, the world keeps moving, and so that's sort of, I suppose, reassuring. And I think the world keeps moving, and you need to go back and write another 500 words.
To finish off, I want to talk about a very different kind of nourishment, and to quote a line from the book in which you say, "I believe the world is divided in two, those who think soup is a meal and those who are wrong." Tell me more about soup and your love for it. Well, I mean, when I was growing up, my mum there was always soup in the winter, certainly, and in most of the other seasons as well. And she did Scotch broth, she did lentil soup,
she did a sort of minestrone, and she did leek and potato soup, and that was her repertoire basically, and they were all wonderful, they were all terrific. And I remember when I went off to university, I decided that when St Andrew's Day came round, as it's coming round this weekend, that I would have a sort of Scottish dinner for some of my friends. And so I rang her up and I said, what's your recipe for Scotch broth? And there was this silence. She said, it doesn't really have a recipe. You rummage about and see what's in the fridge.
Yeah.
And so that was my first attempt at trying to create that sort of magic of coming home out of the cold to a big plate of warm soup. Central heating for the soul. And of course, I mean, my repertoire is now extended far beyond those basics. And I love soup. I love making soup. There's almost always a pot of soup on the stove, waiting to be heated up or waiting to be eaten. Because what else would you do in the winter? It's lovely. It's beautiful.
It will please you to know that you're not alone in this thought. I had a conversation with Stanley Tucci in which he opined about soup and why it should be considered, far more than just a starter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a starter. You got wee dodgy soup. I mean, what's the point of that? You need a big bowl of steaming nourishment. You can feel it going through your body, heating you up. It's great.
Whilst I go away to campaign for a new TV series, which is Val and Stanley Tucci Make Soup, there is so much for readers to enjoy in this book, Winter. So thank you so much for writing it, Val. As I say, there's a load in there about the seasons, but also about how you work and your creativity. So thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. I'm going back to Edinburgh to a bowl of mushroom soup.